There comes a moment in every soul's journey when it must awaken from the sleep of the world. A gentle whisper rises from within, faint at first, like a breeze brushing through leaves, asking you to remember. Not to remember the things that happened in time, but to remember who you are beyond time. Beneath the roles, beneath the names, beneath the weight of pain and the noise of the mind, there is an essence, pure and untouched, waiting to be remembered. That essence is your healing. Healing is not something you chase in the world. It's not hidden in a book, or wrapped inside the approval of others, or locked away in the arms of a relationship. Healing is a homecoming, a quiet return to the divine spark that has never left you. Though you may have wandered far in thought, in fear, in forgetting, healing is not a process of fixing what's broken. It's a revelation that you were never broken at all. It is the undoing of every lie you believed about yourself when you were too young to know better. We came into this world whole. We arrived with nothing but breath and being and a radiant trust in the unseen. But then somewhere along the way, we were taught to forget. We were taught to question our worth, to doubt our voice, to bury our magic beneath layers of guilt and shame and unworthiness. We learned to perform, to please, to protect ourselves from the pain of not being seen. And in that survival, we began to wear masks so well that even we forgot who was underneath them. But you were not born to be a mask. You were born to be a light. And though the world may have convinced you otherwise, that light has not gone out. It simply waits in stillness, beneath the noise of the ego, beneath the story of your suffering, beneath the pain that you've mistaken for your identity. Healing begins when you stop searching for yourself in the wounds and begin listening to the quiet remembering in your soul. You are not the story. You are the awareness watching it unfold. We are so deeply conditioned to identify with pain, to say, this happened to me, and so this is who I am. But you are not what happened to you. You are what survived it. You are what witnessed it. And more than that, you are what was never touched by it. There is a part of you, call it the soul, the higher self, the eternal observer that has never been stained by any trauma, any betrayal, or any past. That part of you is the healer. And it doesn't need to do anything but be remembered. The moment you stop clinging to the identity of the wounded self, the healing begins. The moment you look in the mirror and say, I am not this pain, I am not this ego, I am not this fear, something sacred opens. The energy you were using to defend your pain becomes the energy you can now use to remember your truth. You cannot awaken and hold on to your story at the same time. At some point, you must choose which one you will carry. And when you finally choose truth, healing is no longer an effort, it becomes your natural state. Healing is not a destination, it is a return. And you are not late to your return. The soul doesn't rush. It doesn't measure success in milestones. It waits patiently until you're ready to stop identifying with what you are not. You can fall apart 1,000 times, and the soul will still whisper, you are whole. You can build an identity around pain, and the soul will still remind you, this is not who you are. You can forget your light entirely, and still the soul will guide you gently back to it. This is the grace of being. Forgiveness is one of the doors to remembering. Not forgiveness as a favor to the past, but as a release of your own chains. When you forgive, you say, I no longer need this story to define me. You return the energy you gave away to anger, to regret, to bitterness, and you reclaim it for your joy, for your presence, for your peace. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It's saying, I will no longer bind my identity to what happened. That's power. That's freedom. That's healing. So, ask yourself not with judgment, but with deep compassion, what are you still holding on to that you no longer need? What belief, what story, what name have you accepted that has kept you from remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget? Who are you without that pain? Who are you without that resentment? Who are you when you're not performing, not pleasing, not pretending? The ego will resist these questions. The ego will tell you healing is impossible unless the world changes first. It will say, you can't be at peace until they apologize, until life gives you back what it took. But the soul knows differently. The soul knows that your freedom is never dependent on anything outside of you. It is your birthright. The moment you claim that birthright, the healing begins not because anything changed, but because you remembered that nothing needed to. You've been searching for healing as if it was lost. But healing is not something to find, it's something to allow. It's been inside you all along, waiting for your permission to bloom. The soul doesn't force itself into your awareness. It waits. It waits until the noise grows too loud, until the roles become too heavy, until the pain becomes too tight to carry. And then, like a breath you forgot you were holding, it reminds you, come back, come home, come within. And so here we are, not at the beginning and not at the end, but at the threshold, a place of remembering. A place where the mask can fall, where the armor can melt, and where the child you once were can speak again. That child didn't need to be healed. That child just needed to be seen. And when you see yourself with the eyes of love, that child returns not to relive the wounds, but to remind you how to live again. The child within you never disappeared. It only grew quiet beneath the noise of expectation. It only dimmed its light when the world told it that shining too brightly was dangerous. It only stepped back when rejection felt like death. But it never ceased to exist. It waited, it watched, it learned your sadness like a language, and yet it never stopped dreaming in the voice of truth. Healing is letting that child speak again. It is allowing your innocent Seno, your naivety, but your sacred, untouchable innocent Seto rise back into your life, not as weakness, but as divine power. You see, the world teaches you to armor up, to toughen, to become cynical in the name of survival. But healing is the reversal of that armor. It is the radical courage to feel again, to hope again, to believe in something invisible again, not because life guaranteed it, but because your soul remembers it. This is not regression, this is resurrection. The ego tells you that if you soften, you'll break. But the truth is, it's only in your softening that you'll remember you were never breakable to begin with. Only the persona breaks. Only the illusion shatters. Who you really are is indestructible. There's a tenderness at the core of your being. It does not need to prove itself. It doesn't scream to be heard. It doesn't grasp to be chosen. It simply is. Like the sun that shines without needing applause, like the ocean that doesn't explain its waves, like the wind that never asks permission to move. You are made of that same quiet divinity. And when you stop performing, when you stop defending, when you stop hiding, you begin to vibrate with your original frequency. That's what healing feels like, a return to your natural vibration. But to return, you must be willing to release. You must be willing to shed the layers you believed you needed to survive. The identities, the defenses, the roles, even the spiritual masks that tell you you're only lovable when you're healing. No. You are lovable now. You are whole now. Healing doesn't begin when you get rid of your wounds. It begins when you stop being ashamed of them. You don't need to cover your cracks. You need to see that the light gets in through them. Let them shine. There is no spiritual awakening without honesty. And honesty means standing naked before yourself and admitting, I forgot who I was. Not as a failure, but as a doorway. Because every honest admission becomes a key. And every key opens a door back to your soul. You were not meant to know all the answers. You were meant to remember the truth that can't be spoken, only felt. The truth that says, you are loved. Not for what you do, but for who you are beneath all doing. You are eternal, you are enough, and you are already home. Look at the trees. They do not try to become anything. They do not strive to impress. They do not force their growth. They surrender to it. They allow the seasons to move through them, and they do not panic when the leaves fall. They know the falling is part of the cycle. So why do you mourn every leaf that falls from your life? Why do you panic when a season ends? The soul is not worried. It trusts the shedding. It knows that everything you lose that is not aligned with your truth is not lost, it is liberation. Healing is remembering that life is always working with you, not against you. Even the pain was not a punishment. It was a teacher. Even the heartbreak was not a curse. It was an initiation. Even the silence you feared was not emptiness, it was space, sacred space, where the voice of your soul could be heard again. So stop running from the quiet. Stop filling every moment with noise, just to avoid your own presence. You are not empty. You are spacious. You are not lost. You are in the process of remembering. There's no need to rush your healing. The soul unfolds at the pace of trust. And trust means letting go of the timeline, letting go of the old calendar that says, I should be further by now. Says who? Healing is not linear. It spirals. It loops. It deepens. Sometimes you revisit an old pain not because you failed, but because your soul is ready to meet it with more love. Don't judge the return. Embrace it as an invitation. A chance to finally hold yourself where once you abandon yourself, that is not weakness. That is mastery. And as you keep walking this spiral path, you begin to notice something profound. You are becoming more you. Not a better version, a truer one. The one you were before the world whispered its lies. Before shame took root. Before self-doubt claimed your name. And that truer self does not chase. It does not beg. It does not shrink. It breathes. It trusts. It radiates. That self is your essence, and no amount of forgetting can erase it. The soul is not diminished by forgetfulness. It waits patiently, lovingly, silently, until you are ready to hear it again. And now, perhaps you are. Perhaps this very moment is the turning point. Not the dramatic kind with flashing signs, but the subtle kind, the kind where you pause, breathe, and decide, I'm ready to come home. Not to the past, not to the future, but to the sacred stillness of now, where the past has no grip and the future holds no fear. Just the presence of your own divinity whispering, you've never left. You only closed your eyes. Now open them. Healing is the opening of those eyes. It is the softening of the grip. It is the exhale after years of holding your breath. It is the sacred yes to the life you've already been given. You don't need to find a new you. You need to remove everything that isn't you. The guilt, the shame, the false pride, the need to prove, the hunger for validation. These are not signs of your truth. They are signs of your forgetting. And as you release them, something remarkable happens. You begin to remember, not just intellectually, but viscerally, soulfully, cellularly. You remember that you are peace, not the kind you find in silence, but the kind that is silence, the kind that is untouched by noise. You remember that you are love, not the kind you receive, but the kind you radiate effortlessly when you stop hiding who you are. You remember that you are light, not because you try to shine, but because light is what you are made of. Healing is not becoming more spiritual, it is becoming more you. And that is the most sacred path of all. And so we continue deeper into the sacred remembering, not to learn something new, but to return to what has always been true. Healing is not the pursuit of light, it is the falling away of everything that made you forget you already are it. It is the peeling back of layers, the gentle release of false stories, the unraveling of tightly held illusions. It's the soul's quiet celebration every time you say, "This is not me," and let go. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. You are not here to fit into the mind of another. You are here to be the fullest expression of your truth, even if that truth is met with silence or resistance or misunderstanding. The healing path requires that you love yourself enough to be misunderstood and still not shrink. You don't need agreement to validate your spirit. The soul has never needed applause. It only needs your permission to be free. Let go of the need to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of authenticity. And authenticity is the birthplace of healing. Your cracks are not flaws, they are entry points for grace. Your tears are not weaknesses, they are sacred rivers that carry pain out of the body. Stop editing yourself into someone digestible. Stop shrinking your truth so others won't choke on it. You were not sent here to be palatable. You were sent here to be a force of light, to remember your own fire and let it warm the world. And let go of the guilt that says you must earn rest, earn peace, earn joy. These are your natural states. You don't need to earn what you already are. The soul is not in debt. It does not keep score. That's the voice of the ego voice that believes everything must be earned, that healing must be deserved. But healing is not a transaction. It is a birthright. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to laugh, even when things aren't perfect. You are allowed to experience joy without earning it through suffering. This too is part of the remembering. Let go of the belief that time heals all wounds. Time doesn't heal. Awareness does. Time may hide the pain, but only presence can transform it. Only when you meet yourself in full honesty without judgment, without resistance does the alchemy begin. Healing happens when you stop running. When you sit with your pain like an old friend and say, "I see you, I hear you, you don't have to scream anymore." The moment you stop abandoning yourself is the moment healing begins. You may be thinking, "But I've already tried to heal. I've done the work. I've read the books. Why do I still hurt?" Because healing is not about consuming more knowledge. It's about embodying the truth you already know. You don't heal by thinking your way out. You heal by feeling your way through. You don't heal by bypassing your pain with positivity. You heal by making space for the pain and choosing to love yourself in it. This is not weakness. This is divine courage. The soul isn't asking you to be positive. It's asking you to be present, to be here. Now, to stop escaping through the past or the future and return to the breath you are taking in this moment. That breath is sacred. That breath is your access point to the infinite. You don't need to reach for some faraway enlightenment. The present moment is the doorway. And healing is nothing more than remembering how to live inside that doorway fully and without shame. Shame, let's talk about it. The silent killer of the soul's voice. Shame thrives in secrecy. It grows in silence, but it cannot survive in the light. When you bring compassion to the places you once hid, shame dissolves. You are not the worst thing you've done. You are not the story someone told about you. You are not the mask you wore to survive. You are the awareness behind it all. You are the one who saw it, who lived it, and who still, despite it, longs to love. To heal is to love again, to love yourself again. Not just the polished parts, but the raw and aching parts, the grieving parts, the doubting parts, the messy, human, trembling parts. The soul doesn't discriminate. It sees all of you and calls all of it sacred. When you begin to see yourself through the eyes of your soul, you stop needing others to approve of you. You stop needing the world to mirror your worth because you've remembered what the world could never teach you. You are already worthy. Your healing doesn't require their apology. It doesn't require them to change. It doesn't require the past to be different. It only requires your willingness to reclaim yourself from everything that convinced you that you were not whole. The moment you say, I don't need the outside to change for me to be free, you remember? You remember that the soul was never waiting for justice, it was waiting for your presence. You were never powerless, only disconnected. This disconnection is the real illness. Not sadness, not anxiety, not fear. These are symptoms. The root is the disconnection from your source. Your healing begins when you reconnect, not to an idea, not to a philosophy, but to the direct, felt presence of your own being, the silence that is listening right now, the space that holds this moment, the essence that cannot be spoken, but always is. Call it God, call it spirit, call it love, but know that it is not out there. It is you. It is in you. It is what you are. Healing is remembering that God was never absent, that the universe never abandoned you, that love never left. Only your thoughts did. Only your mind wandered. Only the ego constructed a story of separation. But separation was the illusion. Union is the truth. And every breath you take in remembrance brings you closer not to some destination, but to the divine intimacy of your own soul. You do not need to be anything but what you already are to be whole. You do not need to prove your readiness. You are ready now. You do not need to ask for permission. You are allowed now. You do not need to wait for the right time. This is the time. This is the sacred now. This is the holy moment. And healing is simply your choice to meet it, to surrender to it, to say yes to it again and again, until that yes becomes your way of being. You are not here to perform healing. You are here to embody truth. You are not here to impress anyone with your progress. You are here to liberate yourself. You are not here to become someone new. You are here to return to who you were before the world made you forget. And that you, that sacred, luminous, eternal you has always been enough. You were not sent here to suffer your way into wholeness. You were sent here to awaken through the human experience, not be buried beneath it. You are not meant to carry the weight of everything that happened as proof that you are broken. You are meant to walk through it and emerge radiant in your remembrance. Pain is not your identity. It is a portal. And healing is what happens when you step through that portal without dragging the entire story behind you. You do not owe the world an explanation for your freedom. You only owe your soul the truth of your return. Every time you choose to pause, to breathe, to honor your inner world instead of performing for the outer one, you are healing. Every time you stop running from your sadness and sit with it like a teacher, you are reclaiming your light. Every time you interrupt the cycle of self-judgment with compassion, you are remembering the original innocence that still lives in you. You are not healing in the eyes of the world. You are healing in the language of the Sula, silent, sacred inner unfolding that needs no witness, only willingness. Do not confuse healing with becoming more acceptable. You do not need to be more palatable, more agreeable, more anything. Healing is not self-improvement. It is self-remembrance. It is not about becoming worthy. It is about knowing you always were. The soul doesn't compare timelines. It doesn't ask, why are you still here? It asks, can you love yourself here? Because wherever you are, love is available. Grace is available. Freedom is available. Right now. Not after the storm, but in it. You were not created to carry guilt like a second skin. Guilt is not your teacher. Truth is. Guilt says, I am wrong. Truth says, I forgot. Guilt clings to the wound. Truth holds the wound with clarity and says, you don't need to hide anymore. There is no transformation in shame. Only in awareness, only in softness, only in light. Healing comes when you stop punishing yourself for what you didn't know. You did not fail by forgetting. You were simply waiting for the right moment to remember. And this breath, this silence, this still awareness, this is the moment. Don't look elsewhere for your wholeness. Don't wait for permission from a world that doesn't even know your soul. Your healing cannot be approved or denied by anyone else. It is yours. And you do not need anyone to validate your becoming. You only need to trust it. Let the stillness be your affirmation. Let the peace that follows your truth be your guide. When your soul is aligned, the rest becomes quiet. You do not need to know where this path leads. The mind craves clarity. The soul craves trust. And trust is the birthplace of healing. Not certainty, not evidence, but surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is the highest expression of strength. It says, I don't need to control what's ahead because I know who I am now. And that knowing is enough to carry you through any darkness. You do not need all the answers when you're walking with the light of your own presence. There is no shame in forgetting. The forgetting was part of the sacred design. How else could you learn compassion unless you first knew what it was to feel separate? How else could you embody grace unless you first wrestled with judgment? How else could you awaken unless you first fell asleep? Every moment of disconnection was never a detour. It was a preparation. It was shaping you, softening you, cracking the shell so the light could reach in and the truth could rise out. You are not late to your healing. You are not behind. You are exactly where your soul has guided you to be. Even when it didn't look like progress, your spirit was evolving. Even in the stillness, even in the setbacks, even in the grief, you were remembering something ancient and eternal. You were learning to see with the eyes of love. You were learning to hear with the ears of presence. You were learning to feel not through the lens of fear, but through the frequency of truth. Your wounds are not symbols of failure. They are doorways of transformation. And the world does not need you to pretend to be unwounded. It needs you to be real, to be awake, to be free. Because the moment you stop hiding your healing, you become a mirror for others to begin theirs. You show others what is possible when we stop pretending and start remembering. You become a living permission slip for liberation. You were never meant to numb yourself to survive. You were meant to feel so deeply that the numbness becomes unbearable. That's the beginning of awakening. When you finally say, I can't go on like this, not from despair, but from truth, from the soul's insistence that there is more, that you are more, that there is a deeper way to live than just existing in performance, in patterns, in pain. That sacred rebellion is the beginning of remembering. And once you remember, you cannot go back to sleep. Not truly. Once the soul has been seen, the ego no longer holds the same power. Once the truth has touched your breath, the illusion begins to dissolve. That is why healing feels like loss sometimes. You are grieving the version of you that no longer resonates. You are saying goodbye to an identity built in fear. And though it may ache, it is a holy ache, an ache that says the time has come to come home. Home. That is what you are returning to. Not a place, not a role, but a state of being. A state where you no longer strive to be what you already are. A state where you stop fighting the flow and begin to float in it. A state where you don't just know you are divine, you live it, breathe it, embody it. Not with words, with presence. Not with force, with truth. You are not healing alone. The entire universe is conspiring in your favor. Every ending, every silence, every trigger, every moment that made you crack wide open, it was all the divine hand moving you inward. It was all life saying, you're ready to return. You may not have seen it at the time, you may have cursed it, you may have wept through it, but your soul knew. Your soul always knew. And that knowing, that eternal, untouched, radiant knowing is still inside you, waiting for your yes, waiting for your breath, waiting for you to look into the mirror beyond the tired eyes and the worn out story and say, there you are. I remember now. You don't need to become her. You already are her. You don't need to find him. He never left. You only need to strip away everything that was never you, and therein the rawness, in the silence, in the unguarded presence, you will find your original face. You are not your thoughts. You are the space they move through. You are not your pain. You are the presence that held it all. You are not the identity you built to survive. You are the soul that was never in danger. Healing is not a mountain to climb. It's a remembering that you were already on the summit, but your eyes were closed. You don't need more. You need less noise, less fear, less pretending. You don't need to chase peace. You need to stop running from yourself. The soul is not complicated. It is clear, still, honest. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And it is whispering now, you are already home. Let it all fall away. The masks, the roles, the need to be understood. Let it fall until only your truth remains excellent, radiant, free. That is healing. That is remembering. That is who you are. And now you remember